Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Bryan from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up, let's dive in.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's edition of the Security Squawk podcast. I'm Bryan here with Andre and Randy, as always. What's up, gentlemen? How's it going?
Hey, Bryan, good to see you, man.
I know, right?
Yeah. Good to see you today, Bryan. How's the weather over there in the general Philadelphia, New Jersey area?
It's about as good as it's going to be for the next few days, and it's pretty cold. But we are in for it after 2 or 3 days of what I call days that I call those days where they get close to 60. It's like a spring day in Nome, Alaska. You know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we got closer to 60, but now that's all going away and winter's coming back. So
those are the days when we freeze to death over here in Texas when it gets that low.
Yeah, really freeze in Florida.
Yeah, we didn't want to know what to do, man. Our jackets are not even built for that type of cold.
Yep.
All right, guys. So today we got 3 topics, all pointing to the same issue: basic security failures with real consequences. We're going to start off with an Oregon state agency that exposed personal information tied to environmental complaints. And then we're going to jump into a ransomware attack by Everest on Nissan, which suffered a ransomware attack. And now
Oh, I think Bryan froze.
Uh-oh.
All right. So as Bryan was saying, we have 3 articles we're going to be covering. First one is going to be me. I'm going to be talking about the Oregon Department of Environmental. And then Randy, what are you going to be talking about?
I'm going to be talking about that. Hey, wait, what? I'm talking about Illinois. So I'm talking about a data, I'm not sure what to call it, exposure in Illinois, and then talk about why it matters and why it's something that every single business owner should consider.
All right. And Bryan, when he unfreezes, he's going to be talking about Nissan again has had some type of data breach, and there's a lot of stolen data, and hackers are claiming a lot of stuff. So before we get started, we always like to say, share the show, like the show. And what's that thing about the show being free but not free beer, Randy?
Yeah. So it's free, but it's not like free. It's more like free as in free beer. Like someone gives you a beer that's actually worth something. It doesn't make it cheap just because someone gave it to you. And so we do ask that you like the show, share it wherever you're watching, make comments on it. In fact, most places, if you're watching it live, because we are streaming live right now, if you're watching it live, you can make a comment, and if it's appropriate to the topic, we'll share it during the topic. Sometimes we'll wait till the end, but that is your chance to be on the show. Make a little live comment. So you want to dive right in?
Yeah, man. So the first topic I'll be talking about is Department of Environmental Quality server. So this is an incident where we have a state agency that got hacked. All right. I don't want to say fine, but okay, they got hacked. But the real problem is, what's worse than getting hacked, Randy?
Getting hacked twice.
Getting twice, as we're going to hear with Nissan. But another thing that's worse than getting hacked is not telling anybody. So here you have the state agency, thousands of people's personal data was leaked, and they waited 6 months to notify victims, and they only notified victims when the word got out, and now they have to put pressure to then, like, oh yeah, that did happen, about 6 months. Oh, there you are, Bryan. Welcome back. So we already got started. So yeah, essentially they waited 6 months, and this 6 months period of them not telling the public that the data was that their data was out there was like crucial time, because this is when the hackers are now creating fake emails. They're doing phishing. And this is the time where individuals should be able to protect themselves by doing credit freezes, fraud alerts, and so forth like that. And this state agency, they leaned on the excuse by saying, well, Oregon law doesn't require public disclosure. So they kind of went behind that law and not just saying, you know what, even though we are not required by law to tell the public, but let's do the right thing and let's let our citizens, the taxpayers, our clients, let them know that this is what's gonna, this is what happened. And then another interesting thing that this article talked about was when Oregon finally let this news out, the link for more information, that link got hijacked. So here you have people going and reading about something, they click on the link and it's actually taking them to a bad website. And a lot of the victims, they thought when they got the letters in the mail, they thought it was a scam. They didn't even know, because when they went on when they went on the DEQ's website, it mentions nothing about a data breach. So they thought they were getting scammed. So that's just, again, really bad playbook, hiding behind the law and not just telling people like, hey, this is what happened. We're sorry. You need to take care of this right away.
Yeah, those are some really good points, because we've learned over the past 5 years, transparency is always best. If you're a business owner, definitely talk to your lawyer and or insurance company right before you go transparent. Just make sure you're saying the right things. Saying the wrong things can get in trouble, or not saying anything can get you in trouble. And you're totally right on that, man. Like, if I got something in the mail, which I did recently, with a link to a website that's not related to the original breach, which I did, that made me very, very suspicious. And what I ended up doing, I went back to our show notes and I found, oh yeah, this really was a breach. Oh yeah, we already we talked about it on our show. So yeah, there's several things here that were basically sound like could have handled better.
Yeah, that was one thing too, is when it did come in the mail, it was postmarked from another state and it was linked to a third-party company they never heard of. So again, if you're just trying to stay on your P's and Q's and make sure that you're not doing anything wrong, and then when you click on that link, it's going to a hijacked website. So it's like you automatically discard it.
Right. And I understand, like, from a reputation standpoint, like if your house gets robbed, you don't want to put out a sign in front that says my house was robbed, right? But if you have a key to everybody else's home in the neighborhood and your house gets robbed, well, then you would need to let everybody know, right? Yeah. And that example kind of breaks down, but I understand that they want to try to save their reputation or whatever. But there's a good chance in the lawsuit or lawsuits that this will get brought up. You're going to have some customer that's going to say, well, I got this email, but I'd never heard of the people that were listed, or I got this letter, I never heard of the people. The link wasn't the government. I went on the government site. There was nothing about it. And so I didn't act. And so therefore that caused me more harm. You know what I mean? Right. I think there's a very real chance of that happening in this case.
Well, this story brings up the interesting thing that we always talk about on this show, which is the cat and mouse game of this whole cyber crime phenomena that's going on. And, this is, the cyber criminals play the cat and mouse game on both sides, right? Randy, I remember sharing an article with you guys earlier in the week talking about how cyber criminals are still making money off the LastPass breach.
Yep.
Right. So like cyber criminals adapt, to, hack companies and get inside of companies and deploy ransomware. They're constantly changing their tactics that way, but they're also changing their tactics on the flip side. After they attack companies, they're figuring out how to, they find more victims, they exploit more people, they do more things, right? And what we're starting to see is companies that then decide we're not going to say anything about our breach, or we're not going to disclose it right away. We're now seeing the cyber criminals take advantage of that time gap, right? Where they are now getting in front of, in this case, sending breach notification letters or sending emails. The cyber criminals are the ones who are sending that only because they can, because the state of Oregon failed to disclose anything, right? So these people are like, what is this? And they're going and checking it out, thinking it's from the state of Oregon. It's created by the cyber criminals to, capture more victims.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all because they failed to act, which is the problem, right? Which these companies are failing to disclose in an appropriate amount of time, or if at all. Right. So that's a big problem. Like, companies are going to have to start to wrestle with the fact that, like, these things over here can happen if you get hit with a breach and you decide, like, we're not going to tell anybody. Well, here's what starts to happen when you think, like, I think one thing's true, guys. Wow, fuck it. I'm not on this computer anymore. Oh, wait, it didn't die completely this time. Hang on.
You froze though, Brian. While we're waiting for Brian, there was one interesting thing too. It mentioned was that it was data from 5+ years ago. So again, it's one of those things is like, why in the world do you still need my data? And these are social security numbers too. We didn't even talk about what the data was. So this is not just because you're dealing with the environmental agency. I guess for some reason they still need your social. So this is just, this is serious data, not just, name and address of where you live and so forth like that. So,
right.
So that's all I have for this article. Randy, you want to go ahead next on yours?
Yeah. So the next one we're going to look at is the Illinois Department of Human Services. And apparently for a good chunk of the last half of the year in 2025, they had a database exposed online. Now, we don't know, for several reasons. We don't know that this was like, did the bad guys ever get in there? Apparently researchers, quote unquote, and I don't mean that they're quote unquote researchers, but I don't think it was government researchers. I think private researchers ultimately found that this database was left open. Basically a service. And basically what it means is anybody was able to log in, to connect to this thing and basically get personal information that can be used in attacks, personal information that could use, like, let's say you got a CEO. Now you found that information, you target that CEO, you bad guys do a few things, and then boom, now they get control of the company that the CEO is a part of, right? So these are a really, really big deal. And on the other hand, a couple other things, man. One, these guys had a big breach. We probably talked about it in our show towards the end of 2024, where they had a phishing attack. They gave away credentials, same department, same state, 1.1 million records were breached in that particular attack. So you have a department at a state that was phished. They leaked 1.1 million records. Time goes by 6 months. Now they've got a database of 700,000 people that's just wide open to the internet, and you can just go in and pull that information off. Not good, and not a good look. And you need people in government that have a heart, and you need people in government that have a head. You need both, right? You got to have both, especially in a situation like this. You need it. It appears now maybe they did shore up everything else, and this was the one thing they forgot. But it appears that they didn't really learn from that incident in 2024, which was gigantic. And it appears that they don't have any kind of a review. Also, their hands up in the air, like, well, I don't know who accessed that database, right? Like, we need to be keeping records. Every time data gets opened and closed and moved and copied and deleted, like, that ought to create a log somewhere. So like when someone finds out, hey, we've been breached, we can go back to the logs and, file through the logs. We use machine learning and all that. We don't actually typically have humans. Sometimes we do, but go back through the logs and see what happened, right? So this is a situation of that. The other thing is of that happening. The other thing here that really disturbs me, I guess, is that as a citizen, we don't really have a choice that they keep our records or not. This is government. We can't there's not like a place you can opt out. You go to the government, like opt out from keeping any information. It doesn't work that way. So this is one of those things where it causes people potential harm that they can't control. They can't do anything about it. And then like the last little thing that this makes me think of, there are some nations that are trying to move towards like a digital identity that has biometrics and stuff like that. Like, man, these guys can't even close a ding dang database to the internet. Why would I want them having my fingerprints and Face ID and all that kind of stuff? I mean, obviously you commit a crime or whatever, they keep those and they should, but I'm just talking about for every single person having that. And then, it's going to get breached and or leaked at some point and used against you. Right. There's the potential for that is huge. And the potential for that to have harm to the people. So that's basically the gist of what's going on. Not necessarily a crime here, but the moral of the story is you ought to have a regular review of your systems and make sure that none of them are open to the internet. Maybe the system, maybe they had a technician had to log in to fix something. Maybe they temporarily gave the access and then forgot that they did. Right. We know that several months that it was wide open. So that's the moral of the story is you need to make sure all your systems are closed to the internet and are basically ratcheted and tightened up as much as they can be.
Yeah, and like you said, this was more of a human error. I mean, just the other day, I can recall one of our on-site techs was on site and he couldn't do something, and he needed that particular user to have temporary admin access to be able to run a program,
Yes.
right? So things like that happens where,
Yep.
but again, like you said, is your IT company department person going in every 3 months, making sure there's no super admins, no global admins.
Right.
How this also could affect for the small business owner is when you click share in let's just say OneDrive, SharePoint, Dropbox, whatever it is, and it's a sensitive document or data, and then you do everyone instead of sharing with a particular person, and especially if it's a shareable link, then that basically exposes it to anybody that ever gets it. And then if you don't put an expiration date, then that means it's there forever and nobody's again. There's a way in Microsoft and Google where you can actually audit all of the shared files and folders in your organization from the outside. And then from there, you guys should regularly be looking to say, you know what, this has been shared for 5 years. There's really no need. This project is already closed. Let's go ahead and just deactivate these accounts. And if someone complains, all right, we'll turn it back on. But again, that goes by policy. So a lot of times what we do for our clients, it's a 1-year policy. So after a year, the link automatically, is disabled unless it's a specific project, and then you can, set permissions like that as well. But again, this is not that they got hacked. I would say it's worse because it was a human error and nobody is checking.
Yeah, expiration dates are really, really good for just about anything. I mean, and even having policies where if someone doesn't log in, then disable the account, block sign-ins if they don't log in for like 30 days or something like that.
And they didn't even, the article didn't mention that they're offering any type of credit monitoring either.
Yeah.
We looked at the cost.
Yeah. Well, since we don't know, since they weren't watching the data, we don't know if it was even accessed at all. So, I think at this point they're doing the whole nothing to see here, move along type of thing. But somebody who oversees this needs to make sure that they're actually doing due diligence. And maybe this was a one-off. But in light of the past 18 months, this looks more like a sign of systemic failure and not a one-off. You know what I mean? That's just as an outside outside observer. So,
What's up?
well, I'm over here on my MacBook, doing the podcast.
My Windows 7 never crashes. I'm just saying.
That's right.
All right.
My struggles brought to you by our favorite zero trust tool.
All right.
All right.
All right, Bryan. So we're up to you now. Unless you had some comments.
Good.
Yeah, and if you want us to introduce it, we can.
Yeah, why don't you do that for me?
All right.
So I can get caught, and then we'll go from there.
So Bryan's going to be talking about basically Nissan. Nissan that makes the cars and such. They're in the news. They've been involved in a breach, and then they've been given an ultimatum. They've got 5 days to pay up before they leak the data. This was yesterday, so probably Friday or this weekend, their data is going to be leaked. And there is a ton of stuff for us to unpack and how it affects the small business owner here.
Yeah. So off the bat, the Everest Ransomware Group is the group claiming responsibility for this. And if you need help recovering from an Everest ransomware attack, you can head over to exactcybersecurity.com. That's XACT cybersecurity.com. We got people over there that can help you. Claim to get 900 gigabytes of stolen internal data from Nissan. They already have the data because they're already they are pre-releasing it on the dark web, letting people know that they have this information. And they got into their network, and then they used known vulnerabilities to get the data and deploy the ransomware like they did. So again, we're talking about unpatched systems, exposed services, compromised credentials, and access through a third party. So
yeah, and
nothing sophisticated, right? Again, it's just somebody gets in somehow, phishing email, somebody clicked on a link wrong, somebody knew how to access the VPN and exposed credentials, allowed them to get in. Something like that led them to get in initially, and then this group got in, took it from there, leveraged vulnerabilities on their network, took control of a massive environment, a large attack surface. And what we're learning is that Nissan had a mix of legacy systems mixed with modern systems and cloud systems. And patching and asset visibility was a struggle for them, which it is for most people, right? When you have that much infrastructure out there, it's really hard for, whatever size your IT department is, it's probably too small to do everything it needs to get done, right? And everybody thinks, oh, we're good. We got this good team. We got all these people, right? But at the end of the day, I rarely come across an IT team that has enough people that can deal with everything that's thrown at them.
Yeah. And the crazy thing here is that this has happened several times, and y'all, business owners, business leaders, IT leaders that are watching our show, when your company gets hit, it's like throwing meat to the wolves. Okay. So the other bad guys out there, let's say Avira hits you. I think that's the name of an antivirus. I just made that up. Let's say that bad company, bad organization A hits you up and leak your stuff on the dark web. Other criminal organizations see that. And we know that if a company gets hit once, they have an even higher chance of getting hit again, because most don't do anything. They go in, they change a few passwords. We see this all the time. Someone who's related to one of our organizations, not a customer, but like a vendor of a customer, gets hit. The customer sends us the email. We reach out to the customer, not to the customer, but to the company that got hit. They don't want to talk to us. They don't want to talk to us. They're like, we got our own IT guys on his way over. He's going to handle it or whatever. So this is just the thing. And the reason I bring that up is because this is multiple breaches for Nissan. It's not the first.
Yeah. I'll break that down. I think, Brian, I don't know if you're the one that said it one time where it's like before you go when you go to a restaurant, you always check the bathroom first to see, right? So because
and the ceiling tiles.
And the ceiling tiles, and then that's kind of like a precursor of how everything else in that restaurant is. So here you have November 2023, their North American group, 53,000 employees, employee data breach. December 2023, their New Zealand and Australia, 100,000 individual clients. 2025, their Japan branch, third party, 21,000 customers. And then now we have this 900 gigs of data. So this shows that it's not just one little section, but they have in it. And I mean, to that, like you said, this is 134,000 employees worldwide. So, and then with all different legacy, current, different compliances that they have to deal with. So it's not an easy task, but it just shows that the kitchen is dirty and there's crumbles that's showing throughout that they have problems.
They have a leadership problem. I mean, at the end of the day, when you continue to get hit like this company does, you basically said, like, we're gonna do we're gonna do IT, we're gonna have technology, we're gonna do some security, but at the end of the day, we're not gonna kill our profits in the name of cybersecurity, right? And I don't know when this company is gonna learn that you're gonna keep getting breached until you start doing the right thing. Because we know with this company, we know their numbers. They're not poor, right? They have the resources, and if they don't, they certainly have the cash to go get the resources, right? So you see it's one thing if you're a small business and you're struggling to put a budget together to do cybersecurity and compliance, as good as you should. That's not the case here, right? As Andre, you love to point out with these companies, how many billions they have, how much money they made last quarter, right? The numbers are staggering with Nissan. Yes, the car market is not doing great right now, but for many, many years, they were one of the main benefactors of what went on with all the free money that was, divvied out when we had the pandemic. So.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
No. Nothing on my side.
That's about it. Again, basic cyber protections, right? And that's it. And all three stories.
Well, one last little thought on the Nissan thing is the whole, do you pay or not? And, I guess I'll leave that for another show. But do y'all think they're going to pay? What do y'all think?
I mean, my stance on paying has never changed. It's a business decision. You have to decide where you're at in your business, what you have, and what the risks are of paying versus not paying.
I say pay.
It's always a business decision.
Yep.
Right? You can't say before an event whether you're going to really pay or not, right? It really depends on your situation. Clearly, if you have cyber insurance, you're willing to pay, because when you sign up for cyber insurance, you take that decision away from yourself sometimes, right? Your insurance company can decide whether they're going to pay or not. Yeah. Now, you have the ultimate authority to say, well, I'm still going to pay, but I'm not going to use my insurance. That's an option, but at the end of the day, it might not be your decision depending on your situation. So you have to think this stuff through. That's why it's important to do incident response planning and understand, how you're going to figure out if you have a problem, and then when you do figure it out, what you're going to do about it.
Well, they got 4 more days to think about it.
Why is that?
because yesterday they were given 5 days. Now it's a
Oh yeah. With this guy, with this Nissan thing, yeah. Yep. And they're begging for more time. You know they are right now. Right? We know how these negotiations go down and play out. They're begging for more time. They're not going to get it. Stuff's going to start getting released, and then that's when the real negotiations will start happening.
Yeah, because in this case, they're not saying it's ransom. They're just saying it's.
Oh, they said they just took the data.
Yeah, they took the data. So
they don't need the ransom anymore.
Right.
Actually, ransom is just you're making the cyber criminals when they deploy ransomware. In my opinion, now after I see what I see with this exfiltration and still getting paid, they're just creating more work for themselves. It's kind of unnecessary at this point. Right? I mean, my thing 2 years ago, I think, is 2 years ago is when I predicted that ransomware was no longer going to be needed, and we were going to just have companies' data stolen, and that was going to be all they needed to do. We're in that world. Like I think you're going to see that ransomware is just going to die off. So, and it's just going to be stealing data and saying, we got your data and we're going to release it. So,
it's going to ransomware.
I can't see that comment because my eyes are dilated. But
okay, sure. We got Luke is saying, hello guys, happy new year.
I saw that one. Yeah.
And then I wonder if Land Rover will get hit by another attack this year, especially now that the hackers know how to get in from last year's attack.
Again, it all depends, right? The recovery process that's where that gets determined. If you cut corners on your recovery process, you will absolutely get hit again. Right. And that's, that's where it matters, right? If you decide like, hey, we're not going to, skin things down to just the data, and then we're going to rebuild all the systems from scratch and just import the data, because you can't put a virus on data, right? Viruses run on systems and software, right? So if you have a backdoor, you have some kind of vulnerability or something that they put in, and you restore from a backup, number one, and you don't start scratch. Like if you restore any system or software from a backup, you're already running the risk of them getting back in, because if you don't know where these vulnerabilities are or what they've implanted while they were in there, you always run that risk. So the safest way to do all of this, if you don't know, is to start fresh, new system, new operating system, install the software, as you normally would on a new system, like just get the software on there, and then you restore the data, right? That usually involves restoring either data files or databases, and that's the safest way to do it. If you don't do it that way, which a lot of companies in most cases don't, because it's pretty impractical, they just restore from their backups, you better hope that those backups weren't impacted before they did what they did, before they revealed themselves, right? And that's where a lot of companies get it wrong. They think they can just recover from a backup, put the system back online. Before they know it, 2 weeks later, they're talking to the same criminals and, going through the same issues. Yeah. I mean, guys, we know companies that have been hit 3, 4, 5 times, right? Yep. So it just really depends on how well they go through their recovery process. So.
I can see now the conversation is like, well, we just paid you like last month. Well, you paid me last month for that problem. I'm here, for something else now.
100%. That's pretty much how those conversations and notifications go down. Right. So, all right, guys, sorry about my technical issues. Glad I could hop on here and at least get the tail end of the show done with you guys. So
and stop the show. We wouldn't know how to stop the show if you didn't come back.
Yeah.
That'd be a problem.
Your account.
That would be a problem. So
yeah. Awesome.
All right. So remember, everyone, share the show. You can support the show by hitting us up over at buymeacoffee.com/Security Squawk. Helps us bring you this ad-free, sponsor-free, as we always do. And if you have anything you want us to talk about or any questions, drop them in the comments. Remember to leave us a review if you listen to us on a podcasting platform, and share this on your social medias with your friends and family. We thank you for Randy, Andre, and I. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.
See you next week.